welcome all delegates, welcome all distinguished presenters. So it's a very important session. I welcome you all to this technical session, which is exploration, appraisal and de-risking strategy. Very, very pertinent and important to a country like India, where we are producing just 10% of our requirement, and especially deep water, which is highly cost intensive. Our campaign, the cost of the whole campaign, including seismic drilling of wells, is very important, and de-risking and resorting to the proper strategy is all the more important. So I welcome my co-presenter, Ms. Molyama Kromah, to this session. I welcome all the presenters. So I think we should start right away. We'll start with Debjani Bakshi.
Yeah, so I'll just do a quick introduction of Debjani. So she is a geologist working with Cairn Oil and Gas with over 20 years of experience. She's worked a very diverse, range of sedimentological basins. So I think we will have a very good discussion this morning with Debjani. So welcome you to the stage. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Today I am going to talk about a topic which is need of the hour. We are talking mostly about the deep water exploration and strategizing the thing, because that is again the new future for us. So my topic will be on from seismic to certainty, CSEM enhanced exploration in KG deep water block. So my talk will contain few of the things, like it will talk about the journey of Cairn's deep water exploration in KG basin or the Krishna Godavari basin, and what are the study objectives and the tools and technologies that we have used here to get from seismic to certainty and to get the proper identification of proper targets over there. So in my talk, I would like to cover, touch upon few of the geology and a seismic framework, and the application of the controlled source electromagnetic method and its de-risking methodology, what we have used for our block. And not only that, this presentation will touch upon some of the limitations of these methodology and its integration, how we have integrated both seismic and the CSEM technology and its limitation, and few of the conclusion and way forward, how we will go forward in future and how it is going to de-risk further deep water acreages. So coming to the block part, like Cairn is having one deep water acreage in the Krishna Godavari basin, which is situated in the eastern margin of India, in the deep water part. The water depth varies from almost 500 meter to 2200 meter of bathymetry. And as most of the people are knowing that Krishna Godavari basin, it's a passive margin basin, and it's having a very high potential. So the estimated yet to find, calculated till date, is more than 6 billion barrel of oil equivalent from the known discovered plays. Other than that, if I have to talk about the deep water specifically, the offshore KG basin is mostly remains in the plyo biogenic clay sort. So and that is having very good potential in the deep and the ultra deep water area now. Coming to my next slide, I will briefly touch upon the seismic interpretation, where we have done the initial data conditioning of the data, and then coming out of the depositional model that we have got out of the seismic data, and we have created a depositional model based on the different seismic attributes. For example, in the left hand side of the image, if you see, there is one RMS attribute map that shows a, a channel levy complex, which is again visible in the seismic section depicted in B, if it is visible in the section itself. And coming to the next one, which is just down below, it's a thickness map that shows actually a ponded deposition in the deep water setting, where the sediment supply in the slope fan setup is unconfined in nature. And the next section shows the architecture of this ponded fan in the section form. So from this attribute study, we can see that the topmost picture is showing some confined depositional sediment transport system, whereas the down below image shows the unconfined environment, that is the ponding for fan loop type of system. Coming to the next image, which is again an RMS attribute map that shows again amalgamated channel complex there, which is depicted in the seismic section, which is showing the nested channel complexes that actually reveals how the incision and filling is happening in this part of the basin. So this kind of depositional systems are very much visible from the seismic attribute analysis. And the down below picture is a sweetness attribute map. From there, we could see there are the stack channel system, and those stack channels are migrating in nature as well. That is again visible in the seismic section. So with these attribute studies, it is quite visible that the depositional models in the deep water setting and their sediment supply, the continuity of the sediments are visible in the ponding and in the confined and unconfined system, and their reservoir characteristics, like are they connected or not, that could be visible from this. Coming to the next one, this is again integration of rock physics, seismic conditioning, inversion and AVO analysis, where we have done all this attribute analysis, mostly the fluid factor response, if you could see in the down below, and different inversion derived volumes are combined together to delineate better reservoir connectivity, to delineate better architectural framework and extract the proper geobody out of this. And all the combination by leveraging the cross plots of the rock physics and the AVO responses that gave us quite confidence in identifying the hydrocarbon, direct hydrocarbon indicators. The cross plots where the sands shows that those sands, the hydrocarbon bearing sands, are quite, those are having some difference from the background itself, and that shows the characteristics low VPVS and low P impedance in nature. So these kind of technologies that we have also applied here to de-risk our prospectivity, to de-risk our future targets. Now coming to my next one, which is mostly focused on the CSEM. So if I have to talk about the CSEM findings, first I have to mention what is CSEM. CSEM is Control Source Electromagnetic Survey. That is it's a marine electromagnetic survey that uses very low electromagnetic signals to probe subsurface resistivity variation. So in Cairn, Vedanta, we have conducted almost 1800 square kilometer of 3D CSEM survey last year, and we have got different resistivity response from there, and these resistivity responses are right now undergoing different type of analysis, and we are trying to correlate the seismic findings and the CSEM findings to get better understanding of the reservoir property, to get better understanding and the better confidence on prospect ranking and the portfolio management. So this CSEM, you could see in one of the vessels, that's the vessel we have used. Last year we have acquired the CSEM data out of this, and some seismic DHIs that showed no corresponding electromagnetic responses, we have downgraded those, but we have not those prospects. But what we are doing, we are just re-evaluating the data based on the geological model. We wanted to see how geologically those things are happening where CSM is not giving us better result, but DHI is active. Conversely, for the areas where CSM gives higher resistive value, that is again, we are looking into coming back to the basics, like we have started reinterpreting those sort of data and looking into the detail of it in the interpretation domain again. So how our ranking workflow has implemented, how we have implemented our ranking workflow. Like as I have already mentioned, that our ranking is mostly based on the combination of seismic and control source electromagnetic method. The seismic interpretation and combination of the CSM response that gave us some confidence on the prospectivity that we have already derived from this area. So this is, it's a ranking workflow displayed over here. I will not go into the details, but as I have mentioned in a previous slide, that we wanted to take those areas as priority areas where both of these components are working together, like where the DHIs and the CSM response both are giving us better result. As we all know that CSM is giving us the resistivity response, which is again giving us confidence on the fluid presence or not. Whereas the seismic gives us the trap information and the depositional model and the sediment transportation, etc. So as I have already conveyed, that I would like to talk about few of the limitations and the interpretation cautious, like the CSM. CSM is mostly working in a higher, it's having a threshold value of the saturation detection, which is hydrocarbon saturation. It detects almost in the higher side. So if a reservoir which is having less hydrocarbon saturation, CSM may ignore those kind of reservoir. So that is again a word of caution here. And coming to the reservoir quality, if the reservoir is poor in porosity and the permeability, in that case also CSM is not going to give us a better result. And depth of burial, obviously CSM is a low frequency signal, and as we are going deeper, the signal attenuates and the resolution becomes more poorer. So in that case also, as we are going down below, the depth of the burial that also decreases. Depth of the burial, the signal also got attenuated, and we will not be getting any kind of proper information out there. So key takeaways and conclusion, if I have to draw from here, is that we have to be very cautious while interpreting both the seismic and the CSM data. And the CSM, as I have mentioned, that serves as a variable, it's a valuable de-risking tool, especially in the settings where the deep water and the complex geology is present. Other than that, we have to keep in mind that this is not the ultimate solution. We have to drill a well and explore and look into the data, and then come back and look into the data again to see how the things are varying. And obviously, this thoughtful integration workflow must account for, to address the geological model as well. So the recommendation for this, if we have to explore the proper value of the CSM, we have to expand the CSM coverage in other parts of the deep water areas as well, and the favorable geological conditions, and the integrated workflows with all the teams of seismic, inversion, interpreters that have to work in sync, that has to be done. And if I could think of, I can recommend like machine learning or the AI tool to be introduced over here for the quick screening of the leads, combining all those prospectivity in the area where we can find the CACM data and the seismic data, and monitoring application that considered CACM in the field development part as well. Those are the recommendations. So ultimately, the transition from seismic to uncertainty is not about eliminating one technique to other, because those are actually having their own limitations. But the thing is, like, we have to be very cautious while interpreting the data, and we have to think about the geology, we have to think about the seismic, we have to think about the limitations of each of the technology. So in that case, with the thoughtful application of all the integrated approach with the new technologies, that could bring us in future what we call right now that the Atmanirbhar Bharat towards the energy sector. Thank you. And before that, I would like to thank from my author's side the sincere gratitude to all CEO, all Cairn Oil and Gas Vedanta Limited for granting me permission to present this work. I would like to thank the IEW technical team for giving me this platform. And then special thanks goes to EMGS technology team. They have given a tremendous support to us. Thank you for that. And obviously, thanks to the SLB team, they have processed our data and we got better imaging in terms of the seismic processing. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all my Cairn Vedanta exploration team members from the deep water for their unwavering support in all this study forward. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Debjani. Excellent presentation. We may have some question at the end of this. So now I'll invite Dr. Robert Wilson, who is our partner in our stratigraphic wells campaign. And the good news is that yesterday itself we spudded the well, KNDP1. So we'll love to listen to you.
So quick introduction of Dr. Robert. So Dr. Robert, also known as Woody Wilson, he's a senior exploration geoscientist with BP, and he's been working, leading up India exploration team and working wider Asia Pacific. So let's join me again for welcoming Woody.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Yeah, so firstly, I just want to kick off by saying a big thank you for giving me the opportunity to present on behalf of BP today. And I just want to acknowledge all my various colleagues who've contributed to the presentation. So a quick disclaimer that I'm not going to read, and I definitely don't expect you to either. So I'm just going to flick through that one to move on to the agenda. So today what I would like to do firstly is just talk about BP's transformational year 2025 globally, and then I'll move into BP's position here from an exploration perspective in India. A bit of an outlook on deep water opportunities in India, which include things like the stratigraphic wells, which have just been mentioned there. And then touch on workflows and best practice that we're applying in BP to try and find the next opportunities in the deep water. And I'll show some examples from the Cauvery Basin for that. So as I said, 2025 was a transformational year for BP. We reset our strategy at the start of the year to focus back more on oil and gas, and we drilled 11 exploration and appraisal wells, of which 9 were successful, including a big discovery in Brazil, in the Bumerangue, which has been touted as the largest discovery for BP in 25 years. In addition to that, we've been rebuilding our portfolio globally with some important access activities, including here in India through OILP9. And we've been investing significantly in major seismic programs globally, and this is something we'll continue to look to do over the next half decade. So the position for BP in India from an exploration perspective, firstly, I think I just want to, if anyone's wanting to find out more, I really encourage you to go to our booth in Hall 4, over in 4B20. There's lots of great things to look at there. And it's all around, we see India as a big growth area for ourselves, and we're looking to meet the needs of the energy demand in India going forwards. And through that, we have our partnership with Reliance in KGD6, where we have our producing assets, which contribute significantly to to the India domestic gas and condensate production. On top of that, we have a number of exploration and production wells to be drilled over the next few years in KGD6, and we have a rig arriving there later this year. Again, in partnership with through our partnership with Reliance, which has been going on for more than 15 years now. Similar to Cairn, we've been deploying new technologies such as CSEM to help enable our exploration strategies in the KG Basin. Sadly, I'm not able to present those today, but I'm sure that'll be a future talk for ourselves as well. On the West Coast, we've made obviously made our technical partnerships with ONGC through the Mumbai High, where we're looking to help enhance oil recovery from the giant fields there, and also as I mentioned, a new block access in the Saurashtra Basin with ONGC and Reliance. So that's our position now. But what I now want to just do is take a more of a look at where next, and thinking about the deep water of India, which is a vast area of relatively underexplored basin area, which we see as having encouraging opportunities. Now, I know it's one of these things where I just wanted to, obviously trying to encourage investment is something that the government is working on, and there's various different strategies in place, which I think are all excellent ways to stimulate exploration in this area, including the strat wells, obviously the license rounds with big acreage opportunities. I don't want to talk too much about where exactly we're looking to do, but what I'd like to do now is lead into how we are, and from a BP perspective, we're exploring these areas, given it is such a vast area, acreage area that's potential. And so what I'm going to do now is, if I click forward again, talk through how in BP we do it. This is all very much built around our exploration triangle, which we use in exploration, which helps us with focused thinking to focus on the regional. So I'm going to see if I can get my pointer working. It's not working. Okay. So at the base of the triangle, we have the data sets, which we need to use, and that's the first thing we always need to think about, is what data, have we got the right data? And I'll have another slide on that in a minute or two about what is the right data for the questions we're asking looking to answer. And then moving up into having a regional foundation to understand the regional geology. And I think this is a key area that we like, the way we approach things in BP, because we always want that foundational understanding to be able to place our PI and our opportunities in context. And as part of that, we're talking about what's the tectonic setting, what's the basin structure, what is the stratigraphy, and how that is the continuity of that from one basin to the next. Building on from that, we then would move up into play identification, and I'll talk a bit more about that with some examples from the Corvery. Some of the images you can see are from the studies we've been doing in the Corvery as part of this, but I'll show you a bit more of that later. But obviously this is all around mapping out your source rocks, your reservoirs and seals, and putting a risk component on it to try and work out where the best postcodes are for future exploration drilling. And obviously at the top, I'm going to talk about this less today, but key, and we've heard about it today from Cairn already, and things, as I mentioned, we're doing in KG, is all about the prospects, maturing those to getting to a drill-ready point. But just coming back to that base of triangle piece, and I mentioned the data sets and having the right data sets for the questions you're looking to answer. I think one thing we found with in BP is we don't really like small little patchwork seismic pieces that are very much prospect focused things when it comes to understanding the big picture. So we always feel bigger is better, and in that sense big mega merge 3Ds are always hugely more valuable. And obviously the other one I'll talk to in a minute or two, and I'm showing it on the slide here, the 2D cube by TGS is one that we've really been using quite heavily in our East Coast studies just because it gives that continuity across basins and across plays to be able to make a more informed understanding and decision making about what is the right areas to focus in on. As we move up the triangle, and I'd say this is probably important at all levels, enhancing the seismic image is a key thing, and there's various different technologies I'm highlighting here. I'm not a geophysicist, so I'm not going to talk about these in any detail myself personally today, but just to highlight some of the different tools we're using from a geophysics perspective to leverage better imagery, both here in India but around the world as well. So I think obviously the example I'm showing of XOBN is definitely not an India one because it's got a lot of salt in there. That's probably I think that's from the Gulf of Mexico, but it just shows that enhancement of having the right data set to get the best imaging. And obviously other technologies like CSEM, which we've heard Cairn talk about today as well. We've been using that in our to improve our PI ranking in the KG too. In this last little piece, I just want to talk a little bit more about a case study of something we've been looking at, which is a revisit and a refreshed look at the Corvery Basin, which we in Reliance had a presence in about a decade ago, but then chose to exit, and we've just been taking a re-look at this area to see what other remaining potential there is, particularly looking at the post-breakups clastic play fairways. And one of the tools, as I mentioned, it's a vast area coming from Palar down into the Corvery Basin. So we've been using the TGS 2D Cube, and thank you to TGS for giving me the approval to share their imaging and the data. We've been using this to map out the fairways in what has been a relatively fast and agile way of mapping. So that's something I just want to talk about a little bit more here. The whole study that I'm going to sort of talk through probably only took about a month to go through all of the regional mapping, and it's just if I flick onto the next slide to show, it was the southern areas, everything south of the KG down to the south of Corvery. We've mapped this at multiple different levels, so I think it's probably about 10 different stratigraphic levels using the 2D cube and using some more agile and rapid interpretation technologies that we have in BP, and then using tools such as PaleoScan. Because it's in a cube format, you can apply these really quickly, and it's been really valuable. And as I say, this took about 4 weeks from initial data loading to actually having a mapped out play fairway. So as I say, it's been a very useful tool, and by being able to do something so fast and efficiently, it means we can do more areas and actually get to a point where we can start to rank different basins quite quickly. So just a bit of context for that base of triangle piece for the Corvery. And the Palar coming down from the north. It's a transform margin coming into a rifted basin in the Corvery. And I think that came out quite quickly in the mapping. So we already knew it from our previous work, but I think the mapping actually has really helped us show that. And the maps we've been able to produce have been hugely impactful in articulating this to all our colleagues. If I just flick forward again. So I'll just flick backwards and forwards. So you can see we've mapped out probably about 8 different intervals in the post-breakup stratigraphy. And I'm just going to move forwards now. Because it's in a cube format, we're able to use various different attribute mapping that you would normally only think of being able to do from a 3D data set. But because it's in this, it's a 2D derived data set that's been converted to a cube, we're able to produce some quite impressive amplitude maps and spec decomposition maps that we've been able to then use to map out play elements and play fairway a story for various different clastic intervals in that post-breakup interval. So I've just put a few examples on here just to give a taster for that. So I'm not going to talk in lots of detail, but you can see on that bottom left one, you can see that's an RMS amplitude map, and you can really start to see some of the plastic systems coming out into the deep water there. Now, obviously, because this is derived from a 2D data set, there are limitations as well, and that's something that comes to come in the QC stage when turning these from just attributes and into the GDE or SDE examples we're showing. But as I say, this was all being able to be done very quickly. And so if I click again, just coming back to that base of triangle, but in putting it into the regional context, we then did a little bit of hinterland studies to look at using the modern day drainage systems and tying in these paleo GDE models. What we've been able to identify is that some of these, what we see as present day river drainage, potentially were established very early on. So there's something we can trace some of these back into the early and late Cretaceous systems. It looks like some of these drainage systems were actually active, so quite soon after breakup. And this has sort of led us to actually say that actually this is a basin that we need to look at further. So this is something I'm not going to show it in detail now, but it's something we've then used as a way of then saying, what do we need to do next? What data for that next stage of the study? So as I watch this space in that perspective, I'm just looking at the clock. So what I'm going to do is click on and just saying what could be here. Oops. I'm just going to look to another transform margin where there has been big success in the post-breakup clastic systems, and that's the equatorial margin in Africa. And I think from the studies we've been seeing, we see quite a lot of synergies between this Palar Corvery system and the clastic systems coming into this area to what we'll be seeing on that equatorial margin. So perhaps is there a Jubilee lookalike to be found in that in the Corvery Basin? Cool. It's telling me time's up, so I'm going to say thank you for that.
Thank you, Robert. Excellent presentation. We can have questions later after the complete presentation. Right. So now I'll invite Mr. Tejas Patil, who will be presenting on a very interesting and important topic on usage of ML in enabled DHI.
So Tejas is a senior engineer with Tata Consulting Engineers, recent graduate in civil engineering. So he's going to be he has a lot of strong focus on sustainable engineering solutions and process optimization within the energy sector. So let's welcome Tejas once again.
First of all, good morning and energetic morning to all the respected audience. I'm Tejas Patil, working as a senior engineer at Tata Consulting Engineers, Pune. So basically, today I will present a comparative view on the de-risking hydrocarbon exploration using insights from different countries. Also, thanks to Tata Consulting Engineers and IEW organizers. The problem statement and motivation belongs to, as we all know, the upstream oil and gas sector today faces the high uncertainty. Exploration is become risky because geology is uncertain, the market is fluctuating, and the energy transition forces the companies to use the capital more carefully. So to understand how these risks play out, I have selected 5 different countries, namely as India, Russia, China, Saudi Arabia, and Guyana. Together, they represent the full exploration spectrum from the mature producers to offshore emitters like Guyana. They also cover different geologies, different operating conditions and policy frameworks. Reliable forecast and historical data are available for all the 5 from BMI Feed Solutions report. I have taken these reports from BMI, which is a global research and the analytics company. It provides the country-wise forecast risk analysis in the oil and gas production. So most importantly, these countries are central to both the energy transition and the global security. So the objectives includes the 4 objectives: to compare the oil and gas production forecast from 2023 to 2034 from BMI Feed Solutions Q3 report of 2025. Second, assess the country-wise risk profiles using the SWOT analysis. Third, identify the de-risking strategies that improve the investment confidence and foreign contributors. lastly, to derive the insights relevant to India's energy security. The methodology consists of the oil production, comparative oil production outlook from BMI solutions. So in these we can observe that Saudi Arabia and Russia shows large stable production but low geological risk. China and India show the constant production where outcomes depends on the technology, policy and investment efficiency. Guyana represents a high growth offshore system. It has a large resource in the offshore enabled by the early de-risking and the fast executions. So this compare shows that one de-risking strategy cannot feed all the countries. Secondly, this is belongs to the gas production outlook. So Russia remains a major gas producer but faces geopolitical and market risk, whereas China shows steady growth driven by its transition away from the coal. India's gas production grows gradually, supported by the use and rising demand. Gas is the central to the energy transition, but each country's risk profile is unique. Now going to the SWOT analysis of different countries. So India's strengths are its large, undeveloped resource base and strong demand growth. The policy reforms are improving the upstream environment in India. The weaknesses include some infrastructure gaps and slow project execution, whereas opportunities lie in new licensing rounds, global partnership, and the overall the India's challenge is the execution, not the resources. Going to the Russia's strengths are huge reserves, low production cost, and decades of operational experience. But the weaknesses include aging infrastructure in some of the regions, whereas opportunities exist in the Arctic exploration, LNG expansion, and new Asian markets. Threats are some sanctions, limited access to the Western technology, and the geopolitical isolation. Russia's risks are non-technical, not geological. Going to the SWOT analysis of China and Saudi, as we can see, the China's strengths are a large, stable energy market and strong government support. Weaknesses include high import dependence and the complex geology for the unconventional gas, whereas opportunities lie in the transition and infrastructure expansion like pipelines expansion, LNG expansion. The threats include the market volatility and environmental pressures, environmental clearers, and the coal legacy. So, China is using gas as a bridge fuel in its transition, whereas Saudi Arabia's strengths are vast reserves, advanced reservoir management, and the strong infrastructure. The weaknesses include heavy reliance on oil exports. Opportunities lie in digitalization, digital twins, AI seismic modeling, and diversification into gas and the renewables. The Saudi Arabia sets a benchmark for the operational resilience. Going to the Guyana SWOT analysis. So Guyana's strength are significant offshore discoveries, low break-even cost, and strong investor interest. The weaknesses include limited domestic infrastructure and reliance on the foreign investment and the operators. Opportunities lie in the rapid production growth and government revenue for the development. Overall, Guyana shows the power of early de-risking and the fast executions. So, among all these SWOT analysis of different countries, if we can observe the strategic de-risking enablers, so we can say that the role of digitalization and the policy and governance role plays a key important role for the de-risking. So, digitalization like AI seismic imaging, AI powered seismic imaging, predictive reservoir modeling, which can help shorten to the appraisal timelines and reduce the chances of drilling dry wells, which is a major issue on all the countries. Already, these are used in deep water zones of India and Krishna River and all. The factors such as infrastructure, regulations also plays key important role in the in this SWOT analysis. So going to the so now we can focus on the India's strategy to approach to the energy risks. So as we know, the India's risk strategy are multidimensional. India does not depend only on one source of energy supply. We focus strongly on domestic production to reduce the dependence. So policy reforms such as open acreage licensing policy, which allows continuous block offerings and reduce exploration delays. Same the HELP helps for the pricing freedom and investors. So as we know that India uses long-term supply contracts to ensure stable supply and protect against that short-term price volatility. Also, the overseas asset participation plays an important role, where ONGC Videsh secures equity oil and gas assets across the multiple geographies of the world. So overall, this helps India access resources outside the borders, as the ONGC Videsh is doing. We also following the portfolio based approach, which by combining exploration, acquisitions, and the strategic partnerships. So diversification across regions improves resilience. Finally, the phased investment in various countries helps maintain the capital discipline and reduce the financial and geopolitical risk. So if we, this is the data which is taken from PPAC, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. So this slide shows India's historical oil and gas production, the trends based on official PPAC platform. So if we look at the oil production, we can see a gradual decline over the last decade, mainly due to some mature fields and a decreased natural reservoir output. So as we all know that during COVID-19, the production was reduced due to lockdown, related operational disruptions, and reduced economical activities. However, if we observe the stabilization and slight improvement in production of oil forecast. So the reason behind this is recover the technology, new field investments in India, and the renewed exploration under reform policies, like I said, OALP, HELP, and some collaborations with forest investors. So while long trend reflects the structural challenges, but recent that uptick shows growing operational resilience and policy effect. So if we can observe the gas production trend, so natural gas production trend shows a steeper decline initially, which is followed by a clear recovery in last 2 to 3 years. So decline occurred due to falling output from aging fields and delays in bringing new discoveries. Also due to pandemic in 2019 to 2021, it became decline. So in the past couple of years, if you can observe, we see a stronger rebound and gas output. So overall, this recovery is supported by the commissioning of new gas fields, the expansion of gas infrastructure in LNG terminals, and the policy emphasis on the gas transition. So if you observe recent energy sector reforms and efforts to increase CNG usage boosted domestic gas demand and production. So lastly, coming to the conclusion part, if you can see that according to the SWOT analysis based on the BMI reports, we can conclude that India improves energy security by using supportive policies to unlock domestic upstream resources. Russia sustains its position in global energy markets through the large reserves and low geological risk, with minimizing the Western technology and proven operating capability. If you can see the China reduces energy dependence by advancing technology-led developments of the unconventional gas, whereas Saudi strengthens production reliability by integrating the digital technology like digital twins, AI seismic modeling, already they are using. Guyana drives fast production growth by capitalizing on the offshore discoveries under the stable governance systems. So behind this, the key lesson from studying this SWOT analysis from the BMI reports is that success does not depend on the, you can say, resource size, but also the de-risking strategies. We have to follow the de-risking strategies to maintain the hydrocarbon exploration in all over the world. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Tejas. Excellent presentation. Now I will request Miss Aditi Ghosh.
So
She will be speaking on integrated production system, petroleum system in East Andaman Sea.
So Aditi Ghosh is a senior manager geology at GAIL. She has over 12 years of experience, and she's been involved mainly in geological interpretation and modeling of hydrocarbon plays across GAIL's wider portfolio. So thank you.
Thank you. So, good morning all. Today I'll discuss about the integrated petroleum system modeling and hydrocarbon potential of the East Andaman Basin. So, first we'll discuss about the regional geology and the tectonics of the basin. So, this basin is a frontier basin and located in the southeastern corner of the Indian territory in the Andaman Sea. And this basin actually formed during the late Eocene to early Oligocene time by the north moving Indian plate, by the interplay between the north moving Indian plate and the Burmese plate. So during that time, the subduction in the Sunda subduction zone created the back arc extension, and because of that, different rift basins forms like North Sumatra, South Sumatra, Margui Basin, East Andaman Basin, etc. So later during Miocene time, there was another oblique subduction. Because of that, another pool apart setting, pool apart tectonics actually started, and the recent manifestation of that pool apart setting is basically the Central Andaman Basin. So now why are we discussing about East Andaman Basin recently? That the reason being the recent multi-TCF discoveries in the North Sumatra Basin, the Timpan 1, Lyran 1, Tangkulo. So these are the multi-TCF discoveries from 2022, 2023 and 2024 in North Sumatra Basin. And in these discoveries, there are gas flow like 7 lakhs to 8 lakhs meter cube per day, and the thickness, net thickness is around 80 to 120 meter. So because of this Oligocene sandstone discoveries, the Andaman Basin is now a focus from Indian point of view. So the main topic is de-risking. As we have mentioned that East Andaman Basin is a frontier basin. So in a frontier basin, whenever we are trying to explore a frontier basin, we will rather give importance on the how to reduce the uncertainties, how to reduce the exploration risk and that basin. So from that point of view, we have done a petroleum system modeling in the basin. Though because of the data scarcity, we have actually done the 1D modeling because there is no data for calibration and all. So it's a 1D modeling for the East Andaman Basin. First we'll discuss about the stratigraphy of the basin. So as we have already mentioned in the first slide that there are 3 parts. First is the pre-rift part, which is before Eocene, and then the late Eocene to Oligocene, that is the seam rift part, and then later it is a post-rift part. So from the depositional point of view, we can see that for pre-rift there was a fluvio-lacustrine environment. In the syn rift there was marine to fluvio-marine environment, and later in the post-rift there was mainly marine shelf to deep marine environment. And from source point of view, we are actually looking for all the source, whether it's pre-rift, whether it's syn rift, or it's a post-rift. So for this study, we took a pseudo well located in the western side of the study area, where the sedimentary thickness is more, and where we can actually have the entire sediment stratigraphy, and where we can actually have the entire thermal maturation history. So this is the input parameter for the PSM model. In this model, we have actually as we have mentioned, we took 3 source rock, one from the pre-rift, one from the syn-rift, and one from the post-rift. So whatever TOC data and HI data we have used in this study, that is from the literature survey from the North Sumatra and South Sumatra basin. So this 3% TOCs and 400 and 500 HI values are actually from the literature survey, as we do not have a direct data from the East Andaman basin. Regarding kinetics, we have used Paper and Corby. Why Paper and Corby? Because Paper and Corby is very well sampled from the lithology point of view, and as well as from the age point of view. It's a very well sampled aged data and well sampled lithology data. From not only Paper and Corby, we have also used another kinetics for this study, that is BOR 2019, because BOR 2019 is a recent new kinetics, and that is also very well sampled from the age and lithology point of view. So for a boundary condition for this PSM model, for heat flow, what we have started, as we starting from the pre-rift, so at that time we have kept the heat flow for the passive margin setting. So for passive margin setting, we have used heat flow for 40 to 45 milliwatt per meter square. Then that heat flow at continental rifting, obviously that heat flow increased during continental rifting, and we have used the heat flow around 90 milliwatt per meter square. Then with time, till the recent age, the heat flow is actually decreasing. Here we have not used the pool apart setting heat flow, the increased heat flow during the pool apart setting. The reason I'll explain in the last slide why we have not used that heat flow here. Next is the sediment water interface temperature, that is actually calculated using Petromot's in-house library configured Indian plate at northern hemisphere at present 10 degree of north latitude. Regarding paleo water depth, we have actually derived the data from literature review as well as from the depositional environment, what is the depth of water at that time and what is the lithology. On that basis, we have actually give the data for the paleo water depth. So the transformation ratio, as this is a 1D model, we will mainly discuss about the generation potential of hydrocarbon, and in a 1D PSM model, the transformation ratio is basically the key factor to indicate the hydrocarbon potential, generation potential for a kerogen. So in this model, we can see that we have two source rock. One is the pre-rift source rock, that is the parallel shale, and another is the syn-rift source rock. Both the source rock actually has reached a limit of 50% TR value. So 50% TR value, we generally in the industry we took 50% TR value as a benchmark value. Okay, it's a good transformation ratio. For parallel shale, for Paper and Corby, we can see that it has reached the transformation ratio, 50% transformation ratio at around 32 million years of age. And with the help of Bohr kinetics, it has reached 50% TR value around 33 million years. And for syn-rift, Paper Corby, it has reached the value around 5 million year, and for syn-rift shale, for Bohr, it has reached around 5.93, around 6 million years. So from the study, we can see actually both the shales, both the source rock has actually reached the 50% tier value, and both the kinetics, whether it is pepper and corby or it is bore, is actually showing the same trend. Regarding the pre-rift basin, pre-rift shale, we can see it has actually have a very steep trend during around 37 million years. That is because of the high heat flow at that time during the Cairn rift rifting time. The high heat flow is actually the reason for that steep rise in the source rock maturation. Then later stage it is actually settled down, and because of the kinetics the another peak has reached during 10 to 12 million years time. This is a pictorial representation of the same thing, how the source rock is actually reaching at what time, like 32 million year for the pre-rift and the 5 million year for the Cairn rift sediments, how they're reaching that 50% TR value. So conclusion, so the two main source rock intervals, whether it is the pre-rift passive margin fluvio-lacustrine parallax shale or the continental rift fluvio-marine shale, both have reached the TR value. So both are a good source rock. Now we'll mention why we have not used the TR value, the heat flow value for the pool apart basin setting. The reason being, we have already got both the source rock, whether it's the fluvio-lacustrine pre-rift or it's the fluvio-marine continental rift, more than 50% TR value. As the data is from the literature survey, we do not have direct data for the basin, and we do not have any data to calibrate in the basin. So if we are already giving more heat flow value in that region, it may overestimate the result. That's why we have not gave that pool apart setting heat flow in the study. Regarding hydrocarbon generation potential, both the interval, as we have already mentioned, have the potential to generate hydrocarbon in the East Andaman basin. The basin remains high potential and yet a frontier area. And additional data from the recently drilled well or the upcoming wells in the area, the stratigraphic wells, may enhance the understanding and the regional petroleum system and reduce the exploration risk in the area. Thank you.
Thank you, Aditi. Next presentation is by Ms. Shruti Dutta. Interesting topic, biomarkers for hydrates.
So Shruti Dutta is an exploration and professional officer. She's a geologist working with IndianOil since 2022, and she has experience across data analysis, seismic interpretation, well log analysis. So join me in welcoming Shruti to the stage.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Shruti Dutta from IndianOil Corporation Limited, and today I'm here to present a study on the planktic foraminifera as biomarkers in the gas hydrate exploration with a focus on the Krishna-Godavari basin. Now, traditionally, microfossils have been used in paleoclimatic reconstruction only. So, what we have done is we have tried to use it beyond climatic reconstruction and help in gas hydrate exploration and prospect. So as we know, the Krishna-Godavari basin is a premier basin hydrocarbon province with extensive gas hydrate deposits. Now the National Gas Hydrate Program was an expedition carried out in 2 phases, which aimed to study these gas hydrate occurrences across the Indian coast. And they acquired high-resolution geochemical, wireline, seismic data and cores, and we have studied on those data. So the main objective is threefold. The first is to reconstruct the high-resolution paleoproductivity and find the gas hydrate potentials. Then we have tried to link the species with the link the species assemblage to find the organic carbon. And then the third part is we have tried to integrate the micropaleontological signals with wireline and resistivity and seismic data to find the source and trap components. Map is missing, I'm sorry. So the data, the study area is mainly located in the NGHP 0115A site, which has a water depth of around 938 meters. And it is present well within the gas hydrate stability zone of Krishna Godavari basin. Now, as we know, the KG basin is a passive margin basin with extensive deposits from the, especially from the discharge from the Krishna and Godavari rivers. So, and the basin is also highly influenced by the monsoon and the monsoonal discharges as well. So, the main core sample that we studied was a 1.3 meter length core section that we had divided into 1 centimeter intervals, yielding 138 total sample spaces. So we had studied all 138 samples, and the main lithology was clay dominated with some certain sand laminations coming in between. So this is a very basic workflow that we follow in micropaleontology, where we basically wash and sieve all the samples and prepare it for further studies. So we have first disintegrated the rocks, and then we have washed the samples over a certain sieve size, and then we have put it in a hot air oven to dry out, and then we have sieved again to segregate all the adult foraminiferous species so as to we can study it under the microscope. So this is the setup where we have studied. The samples were put in a tray like this. It's not working. So the samples were put out on a tray, a gridded tray, and it was studied under the microscope, and in each section the foraminiferal assemblages were identified and counted and then tallied. So we found out mainly 8 dominant species in our section. So we won't go too much into the theory part. So these are all the species. So these are basically very highly affected by the climatic conditions in the region. So we will find the variability and how it changes with the temperature. So we know the Bay of Bengal is highly influenced by the monsoons. So when the global temperature is on the higher side, the monsoonal activities are also very prominent. So what happens during this time, high levels of discharge come from the Krishna and Godavari rivers into the Bay of Bengal, which creates a freshwater influx, thus creating a stratified layer. So the upper layer, the salinity of the water decreases, and the lower layer, the salinity keeps increase. So some species, as we can see in the top part of the graph, the arrows that are marked with red. So these species, mainly the G. menardi and P. obliqulocolata, these are we talking about. So they thrive in these stratified waters. So we can, I have marked the temperatures in the graph, like the yellow portion shows the higher temperature region and the purple portion is the lower temperature region of the area. So we can see that as the temperature has decreased, the abundance of these species have decreased. If you follow the red line, you can see the abundance decreases. Now on the contrary, when the temperature is a bit cooler, the summer monsoons are not that much prevalent. So the freshwater influx is less, thus no stratification occurs, and this is an ideal condition for upwelling. The nutrient-rich water from the sea bottom, they rise up, and some certain foraminiferous species thrive in these regions. Like we can see G. beloides and N. deutertri, these are the 2 species. They are at the bottom of the graph with the yellow marks. So we can see as the temperature has cooled down, their abundance has also increased. So this kind of links that the foraminiferal abundance we can find are always linked with the surface temperatures. Now the coiling pattern also depends on temperature in such. So basically when the species grows, they kind of spiral around their starting point. So sometimes they can spiral in a clockwise direction. We call that a dextral spiral. And sometimes they coil in an anti-clockwise direction. We call it a sinistral spiral. So in the graph, the last one, if you can see, that is for Geoloidis species. So they show an affinity for sinistral coiling in the cooler climatic region. So as we go to the cooler part, the yellow part highlighted here, that is a cooler climatic condition of the globe Earth that time. So we could see the green part, spikes are there. So those are the sinistrally coiled foraminiferous species we found. So they increase with the decrease in temperature. In this slide, we just have tried to quantify these assemblages to kind of correlate it with the oceanographic signatures. We have calculated the raw abundance of each species in the entire section and then converted into and then normalized it. And then we have found out the upwelling index, which indicates the productivity of the region, and then some other indexes like the Shannon-Weaver diversity, which indicates the stability and the productivity of the environment. So coming to the entire length of the core, we can see in the upper part, the shallower part, the productivity is very high and the upwelling index is also very high. So these are the places where abundant amount of foraminiferous species have been found. On the contrary, as we go down to the deeper part, the foraminiferal assemblage decreases significantly. However, when the studies were done, we found that the major hydrate concentration was occurring in the lower part only. So why is this the case? So we have tried to correlate the microfossil assemblage with the seismic and the well-log data. So we found in the lower section of the core, especially in this 60 to 90 meters interval, the resistivity peak has spiked a lot, and in the seismic also we could see a bright spot which correlates with the basal surface of the gas hydrate accumulation. So we have tried to find out the hydrate saturation by using Archie equation, and we found almost a 25 to 50% saturation in this lower part of the zone, whereas the saturation was less than 2% in the upper part where the productivity was very high. So we can say that productivity is not always correlated with the gas hydrate saturation. Why? Because lithology comes in with playing a dominant part. So the lower part of the core was mostly sand dominated, which had a higher permeability, so which enabled the gas hydrate to migrate into the pore spaces and get trapped there. But the upper part is mainly clay dominated with a very less permeability in the region, so the hydrates could not migrate into or move in between those pores, and thus even though the productivity was very high, the saturation of hydrate was very low in this region. So coming to the last part, basically the key paradox in this study was that the high productivity was not always correlated with the high hydrate saturation zones. Lithophases had played an important part in this study, and they have a control on the hydrate concentration in these regions. Now by interpreting the micropaleontology in the petrophysical and the seismic data, the ambiguity between the hydrocarbon source and the saturation, the reservoirs have been diminished. Micropaleontology here is serving as a complementary tool kind of, so that we can find the depositional environment, the climatic conditions during that time of the year, and then the methane sourcing. So the high productivity zones kind of act as the source of the methanes. To conclude, this integrated multi-proxy approach combining paleontology, seismic and wildland logging data offers a reliable framework for gas hydrate exploration. So we can kind of integrate all studies to de-risk our future potentials. That's, thank you.
Thank you, Aditi. Now I'll request Vivek to present on EUR with CCUS in mind.
So Vivek Srivastava is currently the Chief Manager Reservoir with ONGC. He has 15 years of experience in the industry, and he's been involved in a lot of research areas: carbonated water injection, low salinity, smart water flood, etc. So let's welcome Vivek to the stage.
Good morning. Good morning, respected chairperson, distinguished delegates, and my colleagues. Today, I am Vivek Srivastava, presently posted in ONGC Kakinada. The work I am going to present, which I have for my earlier posting where I was posted in IRS in water flood lab. Actually, I will going to present topic on carbonated water injection with simultaneously CO2 utilization and its storage. The study explore how EOR and decarbonization objective can be addressed together in mature sandstone reservoir. As India moves towards net zero, the challenges before us is not only to reduce the emission but also extracting more values from every molecule we already have, including the CO2. Carbonated water injection generally converts CO2 from an emission liability into a subsurface asset. The outline of my presentation is divided into 7 parts. I will begin with brief introduction about carbonated water injection, its strategic context, followed by how we prepared the carbonated water in the lab. After that, we will discuss the mineralogical characterization of reservoir where we are going to use. With that, we have with carbonated water injection, how the wettability and IFT of the field changes. After that, I will discuss core flood experiment, and finally, I will conclude the main result and along with technical and operational advantages of this process. Basically, carbonated water injection, as the name suggests, we dissolve CO2 in water, injection water, before injecting into the reservoir. So it is a generally enhanced oil recovery process. It comes after water. Comes after the after water injections, where here, unlike CO2 injection, where we have fingering issues and other issues are there, here we eliminate the issue of fingering, improves the sweep efficiency. Here the mobility ratio is also favorable with respect to water injection. With respect to other EOR process, here also we reduce the residual oil saturation, and whatever the CO2 we diffuse into the reservoir, it comes out that, and we trap that with the help of CO2 in situ sequestration. The simple mechanism involved: CO2 is dissolved, it reduces the pH of injection water, viscosity and IFT of oil. Viscosity of oil reduces, oil swells, IFT reduced between oil water system, wettability reduces, and mobility ratio increases. The strategic context of this paper is global drive towards net zero emission. ONGC also target its carbon neutrality by 2038, and Assam Asset has conceptualized this project for as a key enabler for decarbonization and energy sustainability. In its Assam Asset, in its field at Lakwa, it conceptualized the power plant of pilot plant of CCU unit, where the source of CO2 is the CPP turbine, which generally emits around uses around 70,000 meter cube per day of natural gas, from where the flue gas is emitted, and from there we capture the CO2. The conceptualized part of that project was initially to 20 ton per day capacity, and then finally it increased up to 135 ton per day. The capture mechanism of CO2 is the water bed catalysis conversion, where we use the CO2 capture in two processes. First part is CaCO3 production, which can use for mud preparation and other things, and other part, whatever the carbon CO2 emits from that, we absorb it, make it carbonated water, and inject in the Lakwa reservoir. The revenue potential of that project was around $200 to $400 per ton. About that reservoir, generally it is a water injection site, water injection reservoir. Current recovery is around 23%. Reservoir is around 2,000 to 3,000 meter depth, porosity of around 20 to 26%, and the permeability range from 5 to 700 milliliters. Oil is light oil of API 30 to 32 API. This is the system integrated for carbonated water at IRS Ahmedabad. This system is set up by three labs combined: PVT, gas injection lab, and water injection lab. And we made the carbonated water. Whatever the properties of carbonated water is mentioned here is generally at room temperature and atmospheric pressure. The water which we are using is mainly treated effluent from that reservoir only. We are not making carbonated water in simple water. We are using effluent water. First, we characterize the core for that sand reservoir, and we found that core is mainly dominated by quartz, and the core has main reactive component is alvite, microline, and some clay portion is kaolinite and chlorite. The presence of reactive minerals, generally feldspar, chlorite, and iron offer potential for geochemical trapping. And whether that trapping happens or not, this is the part of some other experiment. It is also going on. And the X-ray diffractor for the sample, it generally reflect the same, that it is the first study what we have done with carbonated water, oil, and oil from that reservoir and core. First we studied the contact angle measurement and IFT. This measurement has done with IFT 700 system with IRS, and from that table you can see that up to the carbonated water, the IFT is also reducing and contact angle is also reducing. It means that the wettability changes from strongly mixed with reservoir to water wet. So what are the mechanisms come from the synergic role of carbonated water injection? Generally CO2 dissolved, brine acidification, it changes the surface and destabilize the polar film on the rock surface, and weaken the oil rock adjacency and lower the capillary forces, and finally increases the recovery. The key outcome is oil detachment and moderates in movement of wettability and IFT. Dual benefit. What are the dual benefits? Improved oil recovery and in situ CO2 trapping and long-term storage. These are the result of carbonated water flood core flood displacement experiment. The experiment is performed at 3000 psi and 90 degree temperature. It is at the reservoir temperature, simulated at reservoir condition. We found that incremental recovery for the two lots of core flood are performed. The result is incremental oil recovery range between 8.3 to 10.78 over conventional water flow. Incremental recovery is around 8 to 10%. I have already described the mechanism state pH drop. pH drops from the effluent water from 7.7 to 6.3. Technical significance that the CWI are as a technical feasible for that reservoir. The study concluded that there is a strong technical foundation for advancing CWI as a promising year technique for Lakwa field, L field. Pilot scale testing and full field reservoir modeling has been recommended through that lab study, which can transport it to the sustainable field scale application. The technical and operation challenges are technical benefit is effective URMR method, favorable sweep efficiency, and critical operation challenges are the water which we are using for carbonated water, it should be good. Whatever we found that the water was suboptimal for irrigation, there is corrosion risks in that process because the carbonic acid form in the inside. So we should use corrosion resistant material. Asphalting risk is also there, risk of asphalting process under altered thermodynamic condition. If we changes the temperature and process, pore clogging and permeability is reduced. Thank you all.
Thank you, Vivek. Thanks to the audience, and I think, thanks to all the presenters today.